Hello, hello, hello. I am IDP Iggy. Welcome to Pack Attack. I am an NFL owner, NFL Greenbay Packer fan, and I'm glad to do this with you. And we're getting into the meat. It's the third episode, so I really appreciate you joining today. And like I said, it's going to be a review. This is kind of more of the setup of how the show will go. I will have a week one review, what I saw on film. I have my notes as well right here on what I broke down on film. It's painful to watch the losses, but you got to learn to do it. It's what the pros do. I mean, they do it after their playoff loss. Famous shot of Aaron Rodgers at the. I'm gonna put on the Butler hat today. We need some champion help this season, so let's go, Butler. It's painful to do, but they did it after the playoff loss. You got to do that as a player. You gotta get better. You gotta be willing to get better. You gotta be looking at what went wrong, what went right, and improve on the season as it goes. I do. And then we'll look ahead to Chicago at Green Bay, Sunday night football game. Some lines out for it. We'll look at the betting lines as well, try to see if we can find a good angle. It might be taking the plus 10 on Chicago right now. It's a ridiculous spread. There's several of those. I don't know what they're trying to do with that. We'll take a look at all those things, figure out who's important and what I saw and jumped out on film. So let's get right down to it. I'll bring up the screen here. We're going to have to look at the stats as well. That's just part of it, And once we do, it'll be an interesting look at there. All right. So once we get a little better examination of what all went wrong here. Passing yards, Aaron Rodgers, 22 for 34, 195, one interception. It's hard. I'd have to think really. I don't know when was the last time I saw a line like that from Aaron Rodgers. And Packers are on a 3-game losing streak. They lost to the Lions, lost to the 49ers, lost to the Minnesota Vikings. So 3 teams, it's hard to throw in last year and make it relevant, but it's part of the truth, man. Aaron Jones, 5 for 49. A.J. Dillon, 10 for 45. And a touchdown, though. He did get the touchdown. Romeo Doubs had 1 carry for 11. Christian Watson, 1 for 7. Receiving, A.J. Dillon actually had the most receptions and the most yards, 5 receptions, 46 yards. Romeo Doubs, 4 for 37. He caught all of those in the second half. Robert Tonyan, 3 for 36. Christian Watson, 2 for 34. Josiah DeGuara, 2 catches for 28. Aaron Jones, 3 for 27. Sammy Watkins, 3 for 18. Winfrey had 1 actually for 17. Cobb, 2 for 14. Tyler Davis, a tight end, 1 for 3. Our leading tackler from a solo standpoint was Walker. He had 7 and 1. They targeted him quite a bit in film. That's why that was successful. The first drive, it looks like they ran right at him, and the receiver made a move onto what they thought would be best, or they kind of went like in a deep flats section or the short out, if you will. They just kept doing that over and over to him. So he got targeted quite a bit early in the game. But Devondre Campbell was everywhere, 11 tackles. He's a beast for us. Rashawn Gary, 7 tackles and 1 sack coming on. Like I said, potential defensive player of the year. He did all that, even though the Vikings were up most of the game and played with a positive game script. They're going to have to generate more pressure than that. There's a lot of people that got tackles between here and there. Savage. Preston Smith was generating some pressure. Adrian Amos. Cleaning Clark had 4 from the Jaron Reed, 4 tackles as well. Our defensive line looked really good. They really controlled the line of scrimmage until the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, Cook, when they needed to ice that drive over, they were able to kind of take advantage of the defensive line. You're kind of almost ready for that clock to be over at that point. Jair had 5 tackles, pretty high tackle total for him. Let's flip around and look at the Vikings real quick. Kirk Cousins, 23 for 32. So only completed 1 more pass on 2 less attempts, but 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. Look good. Really, it's big plays. Like I said, they had a great game plan. Their first 10-play game script was really good. They knew what they were going to do. And when it seems when the Packers did bring pressure, the Vikings were just 1 step ahead. They were anticipating that pressure. They, I don't know if that was some of I blanked out on his name. Let me see real quick because I know he had a tackle. Chandler Sullivan. Yeah, I don't know if he was helping people with some of the audibles or telling people what they like to do in certain situations as a former Packer, but they would boot when the pressure was coming. They would throw a quick screen or a quick slant or a little quick wide receiver, like just, not even a hitch, I guess just like a screen almost in a sense is what they're calling that. But they got the ball out quickly when they anticipated the pressure, and they were on almost every time. Dalvin Cook had 20 carries for 90 yards. I feel like most of that came in the second half. Alexander Madison actually had the first rushing yards of the game, 8 attempts and 36 yards. Of course, the story's all Justin Jefferson, 9 receptions on 184 yards. They kept doing that little out route with him, and then they drug him across Quay Walker's zone whenever he was wide open. That's why he was wide open. Walker was running across the man, and he was supposed to be staying in zone. Jair, obviously was like saying, hey, what are you doing? That was your zone. You're supposed to stay in the zone. But, that rookie, he's going to make mistakes, and he's in the starting lineup, his first NFL game. He got targeted, and, that kudos to the Vikings for executing so well. Adam Thielen, 3 for 36, Cook, 3 for 18, Munt, 3 for 17, Osborne, 3 for 14. So not a whole lot out there. Hand, actually, that 1 for 6 yards was a crucial third down. The Packers really played well. Let's bust out the notes here. Jordan Hicks had 14 tackles, just unreal. 1 sack, not too shabby. Let's see. But they had an excellent game plan. Harrison Smith, 7 tackles, 1 interception. He was on the player Pine, which you can find on the Patreon. Make sure you go subscribe and take a look at that as well. Talk about IDP players every week, and this week will not be an interception. But he's all over. He got his 30th interception. I called it that he would get it this year. I just didn't expect it to be against Aaron Rodgers per se. But, like I said, they had a game plan. Like I said, the notes I have just in general, Minnesota, a great first 10 plays, attacked where rookie Quay was their game plan kind of the entire game. That's what happened on JJ, big TD before half. Yeah, they were kind of moving the ball. If that big play doesn't happen, it's a huge different ball game. Green Bay can't protect. We need Jenkins. I know a lot of focus is on Bakhtiari, rightfully so, but the truth is we played without Bakhtiari most of the year last year and won almost every game, or 13 games. So Jenkins, we need Eldon back. He is crucial to our line's success. They're still trying to figure it out, but that's the most unsettled Rodgers look. There were times people were open more than once. It's particularly for Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers type of throw. But he just mentally wasn't there. His mind, body, soul, and he was mentally getting pressure on every play. He got hit a lot. Like I said, you just won't see that stat line from Aaron Rodgers too much more. Rodgers looked nervous. Tons of quick passes to the tight end and the running back after they kind of changed what they were doing. That's why Dobbs became more of a focus, shorter routes, and so forth. Minnesota attacked a bad offensive line. They seemed to know where Green Bay was going to dial pressure and had a screen, quick pass, or boot on situations like we discussed earlier. Aaron Jones only had a couple big plays. Dillon mainly all in the second half. Yeah, Jones had a great yards per carry because he basically ran it 3 or 4 times and got like 11 yards. I don't know why they went away from that. I felt like there was some success happening there. But they went away from it. So just keep that in mind. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon may have to produce a lot of points. Although Minnesota controlled the game, they never really controlled it. Like, the game was never really out of reach for that. That's what I want to say. Green Bay made several mistakes, like the Watson touchdown, not picking up blitzes, not calling situations well. I really am concerned about Matt LaFleur when pressure's on. It's just one game into the season, but we haven't seen a lot of games where he doesn't do well. And it's when teams can figure out kind of what he's doing. Are they going to be able to adapt? This is what worries me from him as a head coach standpoint, because that's what happens in the playoffs. You play great head coaches, and it's proven that we've had some difficulty with this. And like I said, as I say, I'm at NFL level. Analytics got Green Bay. And this is true. You don't have to look too. Everybody might be like, well, look at the New York Giants game. Look, man, I've been told my whole life, game's about to be over. End of the game, you're on the road, go for 2. If you're at home, go for the tie, because you got all that home support to help you sustain a drive, And so to me, that's still football 101. I know a lot of people want to say, oh, analytics is, it went for 2, won the game. Look how many times the Sunday people went for it way early in the game, just like Green Bay, going from the 1-yard line and not getting it, and then Minnesota going on that drive and putting together essentially what would be a touchdown, all on momentum, because football's a momentum sport. That's what it boils down to. It's really a momentum sport. It's the human element of it. And analytics got Green Bay. They tried to go for it. It didn't work out. What did Minnesota do? They kicked 3 field goals. 3 field goals inside the 20, the 25. So old school football. Don't get caught up in this stupid numbers game. The rhetoric is getting a little crazy to me, actually, how much people are trying to incorporate the philosophies of baseball, a sport that's radically different than football. Baseball, the defense starts with the ball every play. You have the same people. The pace of the game is really slow. The action is always the same. It always starts with the defense with the ball, trying to get it past the offense, as weird as that is to say. Baseball's a very weird sport. And this is where a lot of this analytics is being derived from, because they've had some success in a sport that's very routine, doesn't really have much of a human element. And they're trying to translate it to a thing where there's 11 people moving in different directions. It's not baseball. There's not a correlation really. Okay, so I hate to see it ruining great minds. Nathaniel Hackett went with analytics. He said, yeah, that was our mark. We went there and got that. That's an analytic tactic. Football 101 would say, get as close as you can. You got 3 timeouts. Get there. All right, I appreciate him owning it up to it, but analytics is kind of taken away from just the common sense of football. Okay, don't get blown away by just air numbers, no weight numbers, empty numbers that have no value to them. And it got them. Minnesota, like I said, they kicked three field goals. The score was 23-7. Could have very well been 14-7 if they would have gone forward and got shut down, because Green Bay's defense for the most part looked pretty good, except for Quay Walker, where they went. That's what these offenses do. What did the Rams do against the Bengals? They went and attacked Eli Apple. Go look at those highlights. 3 or 4 touchdowns. They're all Eli Apple. What did this offensive coordinator that won the Super Bowl come in and do for the Vikings? He found a weak link in Quay Walker, and they attacked him. All right, that's what great offenses do, because it's like baseball. You're just pitching and throwing to a batter over and over again. Football, there's going to be 11 people out there. Let's find the weak link and execute. So that's what I saw on film. They did a great job doing that. Green Bay actually played really well the first 26 minutes. The first 26 minutes of the game, it was 7-0. Okay, so don't get caught up in the highlight narrative. Don't get caught up in just empty numbers. Analytics pretty much cost Green Bay the game. Even if you go into half 3-10, it's just like, you have that number on the board. You have that momentum, and they didn't do it. And I really question a lot of coaches that just use analytics. I'm getting a little worried about Matt LaFleur. I'm not talking about he's won a lot of games, but I need a guy that plays well when the pressure's on. I need a coach that can coach well when the pressure's on. All right, moving ahead, looking towards the Chicago game, I do expect, this is going to be a battle. The spread is 10 points. It's at Lambeau Field, Sunday night game. There's a lot of games that don't take place in the 12 o'clock slot this year. So, and those are the games Rodgers likes, the vets like. They like to play the early slots. And I think that could be part of it too. It's just knocking out the rhythm. It's going to be difficult for Green Bay to get in that 12 o'clock game rhythm. 12 o'clock being Central Time Zone, because that's how I grew up. 1 o'clock on the East Coast. 11 where I'm at. And I saw them trying to work Tanyan more into it. If there's not a wide receiver that steps up, I expect Tanyan to become more of a focal point, because he can match up on a linebacker. Their last attempt to make the game, if they it was 4th and 1 or whatever, went for it again because they had to, because they used analytics earlier and messed up when they could have took a field goal in the first half and had points on the board. They threw to Tanyan. He went on Kendricks. Kendricks is a great linebacker on the end, had the safety help over the top. Aaron Rodgers tried to thread a needle in there. He did an all right job, but Kendricks wasn't just too good a spot for it. That just showed me, I say all that to just say that, they trust Tanyan. He doesn't have trust. And he has trust with Tanyan. He just wasn't there last year. They're going to have to get a little bit back in rhythm. But the trust for Aaron Rodgers is there, and it's just so important for him. A person that doesn't like throwing interceptions, doesn't like putting his team in a bad situation with the turnover. I expect Tanyan to bump up. If you can have him in fantasy football leagues, go take a look. That's what I'm saying with that. All right, let's take a look at the betting line. We got the Bears, like I said, this week, Sunday night. Primetime game, Bears versus Packers, man. It's going to be nuts. It's a 10-point spread right now. I don't know how much you can see on that. Let me make it a little bigger. Maybe you can see that now. It's a 10-point spread for the Packers. 6 on the first half, 41 points on the over-under. So they're essentially saying it's going to be 25-15, 26-15. That's kind of a weird score line, if you ask me. I don't get how they come up with these projections. I think they're just wildly inaccurate sometimes. But the bookies are smart, man. And it's plus 360 money if you think the Bears have a chance to beat the Packers. We don't like to bet against our team. Sometimes it's smart, though. The plus 10 at negative 110, that's just an ungodly. That would mean Green Bay putting the pedal to the metal the entire game, not letting up. And they just don't look in that much rhythm to me. So I do think that that's quite interesting. Fresh from the field, Aaron Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, 200 rushing receiving yards combined, and Green Bay to win. That's coming in at plus 275. Not terrible odds, really. Field goal made, first drive, plus 400. No, 700. We don't have any player props yet. Just the game props, team props, and the half. So not a lot to look at from a betting standpoint. Yeah, this typically happens. Some Thursdays we get stuff out early. Typically they're not out till Friday. But just, like I said, in all honesty, it's pretty hard for me to want to pass up a 10-point spread. So with that in mind, keep whatever you want to say in check. I do think that Tanyan, when his prop comes out, let's take a look at that because he could be targeted a lot. That's, as I stated, he has a chance to be targeted a lot, trusted by Aaron Rodgers a lot. And the defense played well. Quay Walker's going to get he's going to get better. He's going to continue to be targeted. So maybe check out his tackle prop if they give us a decent one. Devondre Campbell is all over the field. We had a high snap count. Gary and Smith were bringing a little bit of pressure. Like I said, it just seemed like they had the quick pass dialed, the boot. They shifted the pocket. They did all sorts of things like that to make sure that the pressure that Green Bay that they knew and expected to get through didn't get to Kirk Cousins. He never really looked unsettled. They did a great job stopping the run. Like I said, when we pull back up those stats real quick, let me just peek at them. I think they only had, let's see. Yeah, they only had 126 rushing yards, and a good chunk of that came in the fourth quarter when they were trying to run out the clock. I do expect the Vikings to pass a lot more. They're going to be a lot more, Matthew Stafford threw 58 touchdowns and the most interceptions in the league last year. Kirk Cousins, he could do the same thing. They're going to just keep airing it out. They're going to keep bringing pressure with blitzes. They have an excellent front three. It's going to be good. That's a good team over there, no doubt about it. But when we look at the Bears, they won. Bears 1-0, Vikings 1-0. Green Bay's 0-1 right now, 0-1. And that has a lot to do with the NFC North coming out. You start out two games a year with the division games. They're kind of crucial. They're going to matter a lot more than you would think come later down the road. So starting out 0-2 is devastating. Starting out 0-2 and those being against the division is pretty devastating as well. So let's hope that Green Bay turns it around. It's kind of a must-win game. Maybe that's why they see it. As crazy as that is to say, just 0-2 and 0-2 in the division is brutal, man. Especially if Chicago goes up 2-0 and 2-0 in the conference as well, beating San Francisco. Those things matter, man. Those things matter a great deal. And Fields could be underrated. That defense looked amazing for Chicago. I think that there's a lot of potential for this to be a little closer game than people think with the defenses. If Green Bay's offense is out of rhythm, look out, man. I think there's potential for the over. I think there's potential for the under. I think there's potential for also, the Bears to cover the spread. So if that's what you're looking for, maybe tease up the under. I always like teasing up a couple points. I'd rather win with a little less margin than win right on the dot. All righty, thanks for joining. Anybody watching, I would love to have any guests that are Packers fans. Hop on the show. Come on, we'll talk any matchup you want. We'll review. If you want to watch film with me, it takes about anywhere from 2 hours to 35 minutes, depending on how much I'm breaking it down. I'd love to have anybody on the show that likes to talk about Green Bay. We got our man Reggie White back there in the background. NFL owner. It's our team, man. The Packers are my team. I'm never going to waver from them. I'll always be a Packer fan. And this show's all about it. Pack Attack, man. Give me a follow on Patreon. Give me a follow on YouTube. Go subscribe to my YouTube. You don't have to watch it on there. Just please subscribe it. All my shows come out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. All my articles that I write on Patreon. If you want to go in the betting scene a little bit more, I want to talk about some bets. We're plus units right now. Let's go. 1 week, we're plus units. We just want to keep building on that, all right? So let's talk about your betting, particularly if you're a Green Bay bettor. It's just fun. I'll watch more film on Green Bay than anybody, so I feel a little bit more confident going into it than I would other teams. All righty? Well, y'all have a great day. Thank you for joining. Like I said, we'll be here every Sunday, 11 o'clock Eastern. And I just set it a reminder, and let's have some fun. Let's talk Green Bay Packers, man. Who doesn't like that? All right, take care.